Alright, hope the wind noise isn't too bad. Why don't farm tractors rust? Well, they sort of do a little. I think you can see some rust in there. I don't know, I can't see. You can see the exhaust system. You can see that is starting to rust. Hello, kitty. Bit of rust on the old manifold. This tractor is only 70 years old. If it were to rust, why isn't it powdered away by now? Interesting. The answer is the batteries are grounded in opposition to a car. It has a positive ground instead of a negative ground. And hence, they don't rust. Again, there's some little patches here and there, but I mean, that's never been painted in there since it left the factory, and the rust is negligible. So why do negative grounds not rust and positive grounds do? Well, I really can't explain that. You can find videos about it, should you care to. I never really did. If we come to John's tractor here, we can see he put this exhaust on just months ago, and it is rusting quite badly, as it's separated from the tractor by a gasket here, so it's not protected by that positive ground business. Again, why the electrolysis and catalysts and stuff, I really don't know anything about that. To answer some more questions, Ann, John cleaned out the box blade, like we can see here, by simply at length running a garden hose through it and poking and probing. And you'd ask as well, Ann, how many tractors do I own? Well, just little Annie there and her cousin tractor, a Ferguson TO20, made in England, 1950. That's in pieces in my shop and has been for quite some time. I just never seemed to get around to it. These two tractors are John's. Annie infected him with the tractor fever. It's highly addictive. And being born and raised a city guy, he'd always wanted a tractor. He had himself convinced he wanted a 100 horsepower tractor. I had to simmer him down a little on that. I said, do you have any idea how huge a 100 horsepower tractor is? So with Googling and going into some tractor books, I convinced him to buy the 165 Massey, which he's quite delighted with. That's why he has the box blade and enjoys coming home from work, playing with it and tinkering with the tractor. As the fever was early upon him at the time, he also wanted a four-wheel drive tractor, and hence this Romanian fellow we have here. I had to temper him again. He wanted to buy a tractor with the front and rear tires of equal size. And I said, well, we don't own a swamp. And have you any idea what the turning radius would be on that beast? It's the reason they make the front tires smaller. You'd inquired about, well, around here, I think you've seen or will see videos with the backhoe. It's the landlords. We'll probably maybe have some footage of the D4 dozer crawler in operation at some point. However, back to the little Ford N tractors. After the handshake deal with Ferguson and Ford, Henry Ford and Company and the engineers spent a year feverishly developing and then producing these little N tractors. And there's an interesting video, although I can't remember the name of it, or the individual's name, but he said in that entire year the starch shirts upstairs argued to no end as to what color to paint these tractors. And he interjected and said, paint the chassis rust red so the rust doesn't show, and paint the bodywork an off-white color, neither of which of these are correct. Paint that an off-white color so, no kidding, the chicken shit doesn't show. Which makes perfect sense given the era. After bickering about it over for over a year, as the tractor was ready to enter production, they came down and said to him, okay, well, what color of off-white do you suggest? And to this day, or when the video was made anyways, perhaps the gentleman has now passed on, he pulled out a swatch of his wife's wedding dress and said, paint it this color. And indeed they did. And so, that's, oh, I will finish the story. I know I'm rambling on here with the positive-negative polarity business. The reason they switched the cars to a negative ground is in the pioneering days of automobiles, the automobiles driving down the road on the positive ground would interfere with radios. I remember my mom saying in the 1930s a Tin Lizzie, as a Model T was often referred to, would go by the farm, and each time the car fired its spark plugs, the radio would go all staticky. Now, these tractors are all 6 volts. They don't interfere with the radio in my car, or the radio in the house, or the radio in the shop. Now, of course, radios have changed. I mean, they're not old tubes anymore, so has the technology changed that our cars could be running positive ground, and not rusting? I don't know that either. I mean, the difference between the